What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Another beautiful Thursday. I know I missed last week. Had a different club meeting out here in Florida, but we're back again. We got a good show for you guys today. We've got six-time, I think it's six-time, I don't know, multi-time Spottybowl champion Brian Likes to Fish, and yeah, it should be a pretty good show. We're going to just talk about a lot of different stuff, not necessarily spotty fishing. We're obviously going to touch on that quite a bit, but just the evolution of the kind of the fishing scene, gear, baits, and just what it means, and um, everything that goes on with the changing landscape of fishing. It's just like any other sport, things evolve. Football, baseball, same thing, man. Fishing evolves as well, and we're just here to talk about it, how we can stay on top and stay competitive and keep catching fish. And I think it should be a good show. If you guys in the chat obviously have any questions, let me know. Hit that like button. Let all your friends know we got a good show today. So get them on here, give us a shout out, and yeah, get some questions going, and just enjoy the knowledge. It's not every day we get we get to probe somebody's brain like this, so it should be good. Everybody on Instagram, what's going on? We're about to start the YouTube show. If you want to hit us up, Driftwood Fishing, Oos. Want to hit Newport and do some dock pounding. SoCal Angler Life. Heck yeah, man. I'm sure there's no shortage of people down to fish. Without further ado, let me bring on Brian Likes to Fish. Brian, what's going on, man?
How are you, Muto? Thanks for having me on.
Glad you could join us. Long time. It's been a while. I mean, you were on the show probably months ago. At this point, probably, I think it was before Spottybowl. I'd say nine months or so. Probably the last time you were here.
Last time I was here, I was on. Am I centered? Let me get it centered. Last time I was here, I was on with Aaron Kruger and I think Nick, and we were talking just basically spotted bay bass the whole time.
Well, we did the spotty thing, yeah, and then we did. You came on with Salty too.
Oh yeah, what's up? Hopefully, Salty Dangler's in there.
We did like a tournament fishing. Yeah, normally we do this stream at like 5 because it's so late here, but I tried to push it back an hour to get you guys get some more viewership in here, because I know we got a special show. So,
and I know Muto's not a nighttime guy, Muto. So thank you, man, because this is going to be a 3-hour show, right?
Yeah, it's like the Joe Rogan podcast. So just go for 3 hours,
man. And hopefully we get some turnout. I don't know if you're a football fan, but football started tonight. It's on live right now. Chiefs, Baltimore. Nobody changed the channel though.
Oh, interesting.
Speaking about
that's your team. Is the Chiefs.
Yeah, I know. I was watching the first 15 minutes of the game, and they've introduced like a few new rules, which is kind of weird. Now they start at it looks like for a kickoff, they start on a touchback. They start at the 30-yard line instead of 25. So
there's an evolution. Is this the first regular season game, or is it still preseason?
This is it, man. First game of the year.
Yeah,
I got paused. Nobody said anything because I got paused.
It was a bad day. Maybe not the best day to stream. That's funny.
Actually, you know what? Nowadays, I prefer to pause it, come back in half an hour. You know what I mean? And fast forward through all the commercials.
Yeah,
in this day and age, we can't take commercials anymore. We're not used to that. Yeah.
Let's see who we got in the house with us. Leonard Oos, what's going on? Glad you could join us. Sammy from what's going on? Lalo Fish, Spotty at Best, down in SD. What's going on, man? TB Metal Art in the house. Todd, what's going on? Driftwood Fishing, Oos. What's up, Brian? We need to link up and fish.
Who said that?
Driftwood Fishing.
Oh, Driftwood. What's up, Driftwood? Driftwood Fishing. Are you guys? Is it you and Aaron that's running the blue collar tournament? Somebody asked me that today, and I sent them over to you guys. They were asking me about that, so I'm pretty sure you guys are running that. But I hope it goes good for you guys.
I think it's pretty good. I think they've got quite a bit of signups. So I feel like spotty fishing so big now. It's these guys got the bug for competing.
I know. Running 3 divisions in Spottybowl for 7 months was pretty brutal on me. So, Aaron, I'd love to enter it and support your tournament. Man, I'm taking like a little bit of time off, dude.
So Spottybowl 2024. Tell me about that a little bit. I mean, how was it? So you basically fished like all the divisions that are available, right?
Well, this is our second year up in LA, and if you've never fished up in the Newport and the Alamitos Bay up there is what we have up there. It's a cool fishing grounds, and I fished the R bays for so long that when we opened it up there, I was like, "Oh, man, I'd like to just go try some new fishing grounds." I fished those a few times a year in the SBS tournaments, but never, like, picked them apart for spotties. Usually in the SBS, it's usually outside of the bay, so I get to go in there and fool around if they have spotties on the menu, I should say. But to go in there, like, every month and pick those bays apart and figure them out has been a lot of fun for me, and, I think, by this was my first year I got 4th place, 2nd year I got 3rd place, and 3rd year I'm definitely gonna win that. That's what I'm going for. That's the title that I want is the LA one because I have not got that, and I love fishing up there because they got big fish up there, Muto. I don't have you ever fished when you were down here, did you ever fish the north?
I haven't. The only time I ever went, like, I fished the wall one time, but normally I always launched. I used to go on the sport boats all the time out of like Davies Locker and like Newport, but I never fished, never got on my kayak, in the bays or Alamitos or any of that. So
Yeah, and James Collins and Brett fish up there too, and they tell me that Huntington Harbor is like a grassy, it's small, but he says, man, he sent me a picture for my show on Fishy Hour last weekend. Him and his 5 buddies got an 87-inch bag out of there, and he's been asking me to come up there and try it. But they caught like 3 fish that were all 3 close to 3 pounds. I think one went over 3 pounds. So yeah,
man,
up
that's
in LA,
insane.
I don't know what. Maybe there's only one reason. They must have a better food supply. I don't know. But when you fish out of like Alamitos in particular, and I've said this on my show many times. I mean, after a rainstorm, that place is polluted. You don't realize how clean our San Diego Bay and Mission Bay are until you go up to one of them and fish after a rainstorm. I mean, there's like couch cushions floating, boat cushions,
Shopping carts.
prophylactics for some reason. This is a PM show. It's, yeah. I mean, just at one this year, it was when we had our huge rainy season. Was it this year or last year? I can't remember. I think it was this year. It was so polluted at Alamitos that it was like fishing like for largemouth in like a lily pad. You were like trying to flip the submission fishing code jig through like pockets that weren't because it was all pushed up on the shore.
Through
So
like
you
the
were
styrofoam packages and stuff.
You were fishing through, and of course, dude, there's always that huge beach towel on the bottom, and you get that. And when you're fishing 6-pound line and you hook a beach towel, it's a
Yeah,
10-minute fight to get it up, and you got a mess. So yeah,
that's crazy.
it's an
I did
interesting. But you
do
know what?
Now that I think about it, I did do, I think in 2022, I went up there to like fish a spotty tournament, but at a Long Beach, but all I
Uh-huh.
caught was sand bass. I couldn't
You
find any
launch,
spotties. It was
where
just
did you
like
launch
sand
out
bass
of?
city.
Did you launch out of
Um,
Davies? And
no, so this was Long Beach.
oh,
I forget
okay.
the name of the launch. There's a boat launch up there.
I know which one you're talking about. And you go out and you're fishing the area where all the sea cargo containers are at and the cranes and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that
It was
That's
rough.
not on our Spotty Bowl tour, so I haven't got a lot of I've fished there a few times with Salty Dangler, for calicos, but never really a spotty area for me. I'm sure they're in there.
Yeah, I didn't find any spotties, but like a million sand bass. It was crazy, and all the sand bass are like in the docks and everywhere you think spotties would be, which was odd. And it was all sand bass in the docks and out in the flats. It was really weird. Who knows? But we'll have to get out there sometime. I know before I left, we planned on going to Alamitos, but we never quite hooked up and made it out.
Yeah. No, I really like fishing up there, up north. It's, I've been fishing our waters for 20 years, and it's fun to just go out because the same spotty skills that you pretty much figure out in any bay translate seems like to another bay. They're always on the pylons, they're always in the grass, or they're always on
Sure.
some kind of structure. So but you got to find those places, and it's kind of fun to just take those skills and apply them in another bay and see if it works and get some big fish up there. I mean, we had the final round of Spotty Bowl, not final round, but playoff round up there. We had a Newport round. It was the second to final up there, and I was fishing against Brett Wilson, and Chad was fishing against Cash, and there was just 4 of us. This is a Masters playoff, and Chad got a 79-inch bag, which is usually guaranteed win, right? That's a huge in the spotty world. 79 inches. What that is your 5 longest fish total length combined. So in our world of spotted bay bass, a legal is 14. So if you get 5 legals, that's 70 inches. So that's a big bag.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happened, but either people have gotten better, these fish are getting bigger, but now like especially up north, like a big bag is like a 76. Oops, there goes Frank. A big bag's like a 76. At least so that particular day, Chad got a 79, and Cash, who's a hookup baits ambassador with Chad, younger guy, I think he's maybe 16 or 17, pulled an 80.25, which has only been done one other time in the
Wow.
entire 4 years, hundreds of rounds. So it tells you that 80 is like it's a crazy number. Mike Brown's the first person to ever do it, and we named it after him, the Mike Brown barrier. He was the first one to break 80, and until that day, he was the only one. Cash hit 80.25. I hit 80.25, which for me,
Wow.
it was a goal. I've always had that written on the back of my bump board. I want to hit 80. So I'm stoked to get that. And Brett Wilson, I think, had an 80.75. So that particular day was insane. We had a 79 and 380 scores. And it was,
And an 80.2 wasn't even enough.
yeah, I couldn't believe it when I
Wow.
saw the results and I got an 80-inch bag. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I saw the results and Brett Wilson got an 80.75. I'm like, wow, well, he deserved it. That guy, he's fished those baits his whole life and he deserves it. He ended up going and winning the championship, scored another 80-inch bag against Cash in the playoffs and became the Masters champion up there. So,
Wow.
but the
That's
cool
awesome.
thing about that day, which was weird, we were all catching big fish, obviously, but you would catch a 15-inch fish, which in Mission or San Diego Bay is like, oh my gosh, 15-inch, awesome. That was like, you were throwing those back. You're like, oh man,
You're
you're
like,
only
oh, here's
looking for
another short.
16s or 17s. Yeah, it was nutty.
Yeah. I've heard that about Alameda. So that's what's crazy. What's
That was
weird is
Newport.
though,
That was Newport.
oh, that was Newport. Oh, wow. But I've heard good things about Alamitos. So even in Newport, that's kind of surprising. And then even in San Diego, though, like over the years, it's like, what do you think that's attributed to? Like, because it seems like even the San Diego bags have gotten bigger. You think it just the anglers are better, or like what's up with the
Well,
fit?
if
It used to be like just getting legals was kind of tough, and then pulling a like you said, a 15 or 16 was like that was giant fish. And now it seems like it's not really enough to get it done. If you got like a bag of legals, you were in good shape. And now it
I
seems
think
like that's not the case so much.
I think a lot of good spotty bowlers came out of that first year, including you, like Salty Dangler and Adobo had been fishing forever too. But like the guys that spot that first year of Spotty Bowl was the introduction to probably half or more of those guys' very first tournament. And the way Eric, the judge, who props out to the judge for putting this all together, he put together a tournament. And back in the old days, you chose your day. You still had Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But dude, there was no AM or PM session. Now we break it up. Either fish the morning or the afternoon.
Right.
Back then, though, we were fishing from 6 a.m. I would get there at 6 a.m. and you had the option to fish all the way till 8
Yeah.
p.m.
I
And
remember.
if you want to ever and at first we kind of fished till we were tired and left, but then Salty Dangler, somebody's like, I'm just gonna fish bell to bell, and then you're like, oh great, I gotta fish bell to bell, and then a lot of people started fishing bell to bell. And if you ever want to learn a bay good, you spend what is that 16 hours,
12 hours
14 hours, I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
14.
So
If you fish for 14 hours, especially this place like Mission Bay where there's there's only so many spots, right?
right.
That's how you learn a bay. And it was every 2 weeks. We were flopping from bay to bay, and we would spend 14 hours a day, twice a month, picking apart these bays. And I
Yep.
think because that first year, like all these guys had so much time to figure it out, and a lot of good anglers have came out of that tournament.
Yeah, that's crazy. And it's just weird though, like it's just like how much bigger like just that experience is, like how big the bags start getting. It's just kind of shows you that it's people sometimes say lucky, fishing's all about luck, but you see the same people in the top and you see the fish getting bigger. So it's obviously it's a total skill to fishing, and it's
Well,
not just a luck based thing.
I say that in three ways. I say luck. A lot of people say, you got to be lucky. You got to have some skill, but there's also a third part of that, and that's experience. And the guys that came out of that tournament, it does take some luck, of course.
Sure,
But
there's some element to it.
if you have the experience, you know what to look for. You know where to go. You know where to start out first thing in the morning. Hey, it's winter time. I got to use this bait. So there is a lot of luck in it. You got to be in the right place, right time, right tide. But once you develop a skill and you get all that experience, then you can put those two together, your experience and skill, and figure out, exactly what you're going to do for each season. That's I think one of the things that like Adobo and Brett Wilson and Chad are good at is they know how to adjust with the season. Sometimes they're here, sometimes they're there, and those guys know where to go when the tide's like this and the weather's like that, and they know exactly what to do. And that's
Yeah.
not luck. That's that everybody can
Just
throw in
experience.
like
Yeah.
a submission fishing code jig. I've taken people out, and if I take somebody new out spotty fishing, I always know what I'm going to put them on. I'm going to put them on a submission fishing code jig. You know why? Because if I take out like youngsters or my daughter and her friends, that don't fish normally, to teach them how to cast an A rig, no, thank you. To teach them how to cast a crankbait, no, thank you. But
Right.
a submission fishing code jig, I can pull up to the spot. I'll spot lock right on a pylon. And I'll say, all you got to do is hold this over the boat and push this button, and I can put them on fish. I could take, I think, like a very beginner fisherman, because I think I know where to take them to, and I could get them a five fish in a spotty tournament just by putting them on the submission fishing go jig and putting them on the spots, because that's an easy jig, to not just for beginners, but to learn how to fish quick.
Yeah. Jig does a lot of the work. You're not like you're saying. It's
It does.
an A rig is like it's hard, man. Knowing like when it hits the bottom, what speed do you have to retrieve it at? There's even
Just
casting it
just
accurately.
putting it
It's
behind your
pain in the neck.
head and casting it without getting a
Yeah.
ultimate bird's nest is, because it's you can't really catch. And there's guys out there that use a spinning reel for A rigs, but it's not really an A rig kind of. It's not really, I'm sorry, spinning reel kind of a bait. So you got to be pretty
Yeah.
good, casting it into the wind and stuff. So, but for like I said, the submission fish code jig is perfect, I think, guys, for bringing people out, showing them, getting them off live bait, getting them off cut bait, and getting them on bass fishing.
Yeah. We don't talk about cut bait on this podcast.
We're going to. We haven't even
Just
started the
kidding.
show yet. We haven't even started. We're what, 15 minutes in? We haven't even started the show yet.
Yeah, we didn't
You
even
wanna
start. We haven't even got to the good stuff.
Yeah, that's not the
Awesome.
good stuff. We got a lot to go on. Anybody in chat that has a question for me? Muto, are you monitoring the chat? I can see it, but my screen's all dark. Let me see if I can adjust this.
Yeah, most people saying what's up. We got Oscar in here. One cool tuna. Jeff, what's going on, man?
Jeff, how's
He
Kentucky?
said keep hydrated. You guys having a heat wave out there. He's hanging
Okay,
on.
let
in
me show you
Kentucky.
guys something. I kept this in here just because I have like a ice packer on my neck. You see that, Muto?
What is
Okay,
that? 95?
it's 95 degrees in my garage right now.
Dang. That's dedication right there. That's
It's
hotter than
100.
Florida, dude. It's like 80 degrees out here.
I sent you a picture of like the weather in Ramona right now where I
Yeah.
live, and it's 106 degrees out here. I messaged the judge because he's working in like a steel building auto shop with no air conditioner. I'm like, are you alive in there? But yeah,
Yeah,
dude, I'm wearing an ice pack right now and sucking
that's
that
crazy.
water.
I saw the heat wave, but what we're having out here is flood warnings. Everything it's been raining
Ah,
like
kidding.
nonstop for like no hurricane, there's no wind, but it's been raining heavy for like 2 days. And it's just been crazy. The river's getting high. It's like it's wild.
You guys, is that considered the monsoon season? I guess. Do you guys get lightning and everything too?
Oh yeah, lots of lightning. I mean, it rains here like almost every day in the summer. Usually towards like the end of the day, like the end of almost every day in the summer, like at afternoon, it'll rain for like an hour, then it usually goes away. But like yesterday, it rained pretty much all day. Then today, it's just been raining, which isn't that normal. So they've been having flood warnings, I know, left and right. But it hasn't been as
Driftwood,
hot. It's only been like 80 degrees, so
that's
which is nice.
80, but 100% humidity, right?
Yeah, especially when the rain comes down, definitely. It's
Yeah.
like you can cut the air. You can bring a knife out there, and it's just like you're breathing in like the air. It's
You've got
crazy.
used to it. I remember once when I went to Florida, the humidity, you just don't stop sweating. You just don't. 112 in Temecula driftwood. Wow. And then it seemed like when I got on the airplane and flew back to San Diego, that humidity like came with me. And then they open the doors to the airplane and you walk out the tarmac or whatever, and you're like, oh, it's dry. It's San Diego, like dry weather. Like it was just
Right.
the difference between Florida and San Diego heat is. What's up, Jesse?
Jesse, what's going on, man?
Jesse working
Buddy
for
at best
Jesse?
said, how do you develop a shore pounding spot looking for structure, grass, shade?
Oh man. You're asking me that, Alex. Alex, I should be asking you questions. Alex Norton in the chat just asked that. He's a Masters champion of Spottybowl last year. Yeah,
Who won it this year?
2023. Chad won Masters in San Diego this year, and it came down to me and him in the final round.
What about the shore
And
pounding?
I won
Shore
shore
division.
pounding. I've won
Okay.
shore division 3 years in a row.
Nice.
But Alex Norton, so if you're looking for shore spots, a lot has to do with the tide. So I think I've told you once that I always try to look for the deeper water. So if you're at a beach and it's low tide and the grass is all the way up out of the water, right? It's hard to get like a good cast, and especially if it's a beach where it's just like a gradual beach, like as far as you can cast is going to be 5 feet deep, right?
Right.
For me, it's hard to get a big. I mean, I've thought about getting waders on because I asked the judge. I said, "Hey, can shore pounders?" I haven't done this yet, but getting waders on and trying to get to that little bit of deeper water. So if it's low tide, Alex, and I can't get a decent cast where I just can't get out of the grass, I'm looking for deeper water. So I'll go over to like the bridge areas, or I'll just give up spots, Paradise Point. Some spots where it's not a gradual beach. Like if you go to Fiesta Island area or Ski
Right.
Beach
Right.
area where a lot of us fish, it's good sometimes, but I always look for deeper water. And if it's really bad, sometimes I'll go fish San Diego Bay. Go fish over by Spanish Landing because there's a bridge there. It seems like where all the bridges are, they have a narrow choke point, right? Ingram Bridge, North Ingram Bridge. You can cast all the way into the middle of those. And when you have a gradual tide, a 3 or 4 foot tide, the water's coming in and out of there, and it's pretty deep in there, 15 feet, and you can get that lure all the way into 15 feet. So work the whole shoreline on both sides of the bridges, all 3 of the bridges you can get to, including Spanish Landing, and see if you can get some fish out of the deeper water at low tide situations. And
Interesting. Yeah, that's right. Because
you can find
there's
the
no
angle.
there's no for Spottybowl shore division. You can fish any bay, right? You're not limited to just one.
Yeah, you get the choice of either bay.
Okay.
So you can shoot from one to the other. If most, I
Nice.
would say 90% of the fishing in the shore division is done at Mission Bay, though. Unfortunately, unlike Florida, San Diego Bay is just so many spots where it's no fishing. Like, basically the whole shoreline downtown, there's very little spots down there. And it's not really worth trying to go fish a little 30-foot section the whole drive over there, wasting your drive over there versus Mission Bay. You can bounce around the quick bay. So San Diego Bay does have some spots, but I think the majority of everybody is fishing from shore is fishing Mission Bay. And if you can find a spot where you can get an angle and line up with a dock or a pylons or something like that, that's the first spot I'm going to hit first thing in the morning. Like the second 6 o'clock hits, I'm going to be sitting there looking at those pylons that I can cast to, and I'm trying to I'll cast a submission, I'll cast I have a different seasonal baits out there. A lot of time I just cast the ball jig head, whatever I can. I'm right at 6 o'clock looking at that dock. But yeah,
low tide was his Achilles heel. I thought I had my spot style.
I think Alex, I've seen Kevin from Shore Pounders out there like at Sail Bay, because Sail Bay has if you have a down scan and you cruise around Sail Bay, midway through Sail Bay, there's a big drop off. It's basically, if you're looking from Paradise Point towards Sail Bay, right where the like hotels and everything end and it turns into sand, there's a 14-foot drop off right there. And if you can get far enough in the water, which I think people get their waders on and get out there, and you can cast into that drop off, especially when a tide is changing, that drop off, usually it's not always big fish right there, because the big fish are usually in the structure. Maybe in the winter though, if you're trying to scrounge up you're only getting 2 fish and you need to scrounge up a bag, head over to those beaches on Sail Bay. There's a ton of area to walk and see, like right where this staircase comes down and these houses kind of start. If you can cast into that deeper drop-off zone over there, I mean, you got to have something you can cast pretty far, but it's a good spot to go suck up your first 5 fish.
That's good advice, man. Priceless. One Cool Tuna says 5 p.m. It's going to rain in Florida. It's been raining here forever. Leonard says 85 in downtown.
Wow, that's not bad, dude.
That's nice downtown,
dude.
89, 98 in
Fallbrook.
Fallbrook.
Yeah.
Yeah,
106. I don't know what it is right now, but it was 106 in Ramona. So
that's hot. Awesome. So, what do you got for us on the agenda tonight? I know you were
guys,
telling me off
I,
camera we had some stuff you wanted to talk about.
yeah, kind of like where bay fishing's going, with technology and the evolution of now that me and you are in our 40s and we can say we're older guys, right? And
Yeah.
late 40s for some of us. And we're the old guys now, so we can talk about not the good old times, but how things were, different. For me, I've been fishing that bay, geez, I've based my whole life, at least since I was 19 years old. So talking about kind of how it started, kind of where it went and where it is now, and what kind of got us to where we're at now, And if you go way back, back in the day when people were fishing the bay, there was no such thing as like catch and release. Like if you caught a legal fish, you were
Kept it.
keeping it. There was no smartphones, there was no cameras. So when the way you were judged, there's no social media, was when you went up on shore and you pulled out your stringer or you walked up and, showed your fish. Whoever had the most legal fish, not just spotties, but, whatever, that was what they did. And same in largemouth fishing. Largemouth fishing, like if you would have gone back, I don't know, maybe to the 60s or 70s, nobody was throwing fish back. If it was a legal fish, people were like, what are you throwing that thing back for? It's like throwing like a steak back to the butcher. You know what I mean? It's like
And legal
they
spotty
weren't
used to be
doing
what, 12 inches too,
it
right?
changed.
It
Was it
was
2013 they changed it? I'm not sure of the date, but I think it was somewhere around there.
yeah, I wasn't even fishing spotties at that point. But I mean, I'm even still relatively new to spotty fishing. I was a offshore guy, party boat guy for um years. I didn't really I was like everybody else as far as the bay fishing. I got in during the whole government lockdown thing and
Okay, the COVID
got the
time.
kayak, was looking for something to do. And
I personally have seen your entire evolution of spotty fishing.
yeah, yeah, pretty
I think
much. I mean, I went from offshore guy to bay fishing, and then I got a boat, and then I was back to the I didn't do that much bay fishing anymore after that. It was like back to kind of the offshore stuff. But I mean, bay fishing is just so great. It's so accessible. It's easy to get to. It's largely sheltered from the weather. It's something you can do year round. You don't care too much about. You're not looking at swell and all that
yeah.
nonsense. Like when you go
Oh,
offshore, you really got to pay attention to what the weather's like. You got to look at the wind. Even a windy day, you can still get out and fish docks and stuff. But that's one of the things about it is it's really accessible, especially in California. It's like it's so many of those bays are sheltered. They've got jetties and um, they're designed to take breakwater out, and all that stuff. So
anybody can fish in
it's
a
a
bay.
great thing.
All you need is a rod.
Yeah.
Anybody can fish from it. To get out in that ocean, dude, you not only need some experience, but you need a fairly decent boat.
Yeah.
Most
Yeah,
guys
but
aren't
you're
going
right.
to.
You don't even need a kayak. You don't even need to get on the water. You can just fish it from the
No,
shore.
yeah,
Yeah.
and a lot of people. That's back to the catch and release thing, but where was I? Oh yeah, so stringers, catch and release. I think that kind of changed it a lot. Changing a bass into a fish for food, changing a bass into a sports fish, because those guys I think realized at one time that, hey, if I catch this fish and release it, guess what? It's going to be there again for me to try to catch it again, especially if it's a big one. They're releasing those big ones. So I think if you go way back, catch and release kind of changed the game. And then once people realize, hey, we don't have to keep all these largemouth bass, or, I'm talking largemouth bass, that we can actually turn this into like a sport, not just for like going out and fishing for food.
Right.
And then that kind of gained some traction. Then the large outlet industry is basically what spurred all of this. The large, but and it's called Bass Pro Shop for a reason. It's not called Trout, Shop, or Bass. It's called Bass Pro Shop because the bass fishing
Right.
industry is the
It's
biggest
huge.
fishing industry there is.
Yeah,
That's
by
that
far.
supports all these tackle shops, all these big fishing departments, whatever you want to call them, are all basically ran because of one fish, and that is a bass. And if it's a bass, largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, spotted bay bass, whatever bass it is, no matter where you go in this country, like right now, Jeff just moved to Kentucky, and guess what? They got bass there. You moved to Florida, guess what? They got
Yep.
bass there. So your gear can translate anywhere in this country and still be fishing bass. So that once catch and release started happening, and people started figuring out, hey, let's make this into a sport. And then people started paying attention to this, and lures started being made, and it just kind of spiraled from there. And that's where we're at now. Is the largemouth industry basically drove this entire industry.
Oh yeah.
Bay fishing, bass
It
fishing.
brought it mainstream. I remember as a kid, and they had like they were showing bass fishing on TV. Like this was like the
Roland
early 90s
Martin.
and stuff like that. It was like you're watching. It was crazy, like seeing competitive like fishing, and it was on
Yeah, Bill Dance. You
ESPN
probably
or
watching Bill
something. Yeah,
Dance.
man, it was wild.
Yeah. Saturday morning, Bill Dan. An old schooler guy that I used to watch a lot was Dan Hernandez. You remember Dan Hernandez? He was kind of a live bait guy, but man, I watched so much of Dan Hernandez. Like, he'd just be on the sports boats. It was like the first like YouTube kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's like, oh
Yeah,
man, I've been on the Dolphin before. Dan Hernandez is on the Dolphin. You know what I
yeah,
mean? He's like
yeah.
out there. Dan Hernandez is like the OG of podcast slash YouTube. I think he was before the internet. And I used to
Yep.
remember waking up my son. Was he on Saturday mornings like KUSI or something out here and watching Dan Hernandez get out there and slay with his, what is it, the bucktail B52?
B-52 bucktail and the magic metal.
B52 bucktail. Yeah, and then he got his own line of like squid strips, like the guys that didn't want to cut them up, they came in a little jar and they were colored.
Yeah, yeah.
His own line of squid strips and the B52, man.
That's cool. Yeah, so the spotty fishing, getting back to that in the early days, like somebody told me, I don't know if this was true. Obviously, I wasn't spotty fishing back then, because I didn't live by the coast either. I grew up inland in California. Somebody was saying like the spotties were just like people would just throw them back, like they were like a nuisance. Like nobody targeted spotty. Some old timer was telling me this. I don't know if that's true or not, but they're like, man, you used to catch a spotty and you were just like you were kind of disappointed because you were looking for halibut and stuff like that. And when the spotties were caught, they were just like it was kind of like a trash fish. They just throw them back immediately. And then now it's because he was kind of surprised how now it's like spotty fishing is such a huge sport, all these competitions around it. And back then it was like he said nobody even wanted to catch them. And
back then, so
now everybody wants to catch them.
If we go back to my very first, fishing the bays was from the shore, obviously. We didn't even call them spotties. A lot of people confused them with calicos for years. People I had talked to would say they pulled out calicos. And I'm like, calicos? And, and they were actually, because, they look kind of similar, but they were called kelp bass, calicos. And, now that they became, a well-known fish because of you see them all on Instagram, you see them everywhere. Everybody knows that, hey, that's a spotty. But people would just call them sea bass, or they wouldn't even know. They just call them some kind of bass. But now everybody knows the spotties. Yeah, right. Sand bass, whatever. They didn't even have a name. And you're right. You'd be fishing from shore, and you'd be throwing your squid out there, and you'd catch one, and you're hoping to catch a halibut or maybe a big ray just for fun. And yeah, the spotties were just kind of there. For me, when I was like 19, they were just kind of there because you were looking for the big fish. When you first start fishing and you see this bay, you're like, oh my gosh, I know what there's something here. I'm going to catch a shark. That's what everybody always says. I'm going to catch a shark. That's the goal of the brand new saltwater fisherman for some reason that I talk to now. I'm going to catch a shark. You ever catch a shark out there? That's like,
no, shark fishing is huge out here in Florida, but
I bet that's your nuisance, right?
I don't know, but it's like shark fishing. It doesn't really interest me all that much. Like I don't know why, but it seems like it might be cool. Maybe just like I don't really like the bait and wait style. Like throwing a big chunk of meat out in the surf and just waiting for your. I mean, I don't know. I think just that style doesn't appeal to me. That's probably why. Because sharks don't really eat jigs. That would be fun as hell. If you could catch a shark on like a slow pitch or a paddle tail.
Did you ever catch the fish and on the up? When you're fishing your big ogre baits or whatever, some big ones, you get the shark also. Like the head of the fish.
That's how we catch sharks. We brought like 8-footers up to the boat because they eat the fish and then you end up hooking them. And I've got one of our like the Kraken hooks that I make. They have like that steel wire in there, so
not coming off.
Doesn't break, and you're fighting this shark for 20 minutes, and you get it up, and it's just like looking at you. It's got like that creepy.
Yeah,
they got the creepy eyes that are like dead inside, and it just stares at you on the side of the boat. It's crazy.
Are these like our sharks where they're in the bay, smooth-hounded leopards, or they're not toothy, or are these toothy sharks you're pulling in?
These are legit toothy sharks. Like half the time, the fish are
Yeah,
pulling over,
geez.
cut in half. You'll feel it. They just hit it, and then you can bring half a fish up. Like, yeah, they got the razor sharp teeth, and they're everywhere. It's wild, man.
What's
You don't
freaked
want
me
to
out
fly in the
about
water out here.
those little toothy sharks. Have you seen the video that was going around a while ago on Instagram where the guy reaches
Lost his
in
pinky.
and the shark grabs onto one finger and goes in like the alligator death roll?
Oh,
And
he
it's
was
a
like,
little
I
shark,
lost my
but
pinky. Yeah,
there it goes, man. It's just that fast. Yeah, those little toothy. I don't mess around with those things. If I
yeah,
get like I kind of think the only thing I've hooked into a thresher shark once and lost it quick because I was fishing with my bass gear. But I got to see it bounced up out of the water and a small mako. But other than that, I've never caught any of the toothy sharks.
yeah.
I've always caught.
Even the barracuda out here. I don't know if you've seen them. They're giant, man. Me and Kevin go out there. They're like 4 or 5 feet, even longer. They're just big torpedoes, and they're fat. They're like 30 pounds. And I went to net one. Kevin got one, and I put my net down, and it ripped through the net like its teeth
Oh
went
man,
through the net, and it was still hooked. So his line was like went through my net, and the fish went through the net. It was like the Three Stooges. I didn't know what to do. We were trying to like fish the rod back through the net, and its teeth just cut right through it, man. It was like I didn't really think about that.
the,
Should have yapped it.
I have a memory of when I used to go out before I owned a boat, and when I was younger, going out on the Dolphin and all the half day boats or twilight boats. You know what I mean? Where you're just out there for like 6 hours
Yeah,
of catching huge barracudas. I don't know if it's like a Mandela effect on me or whatever, but it seemed like they were like as long as my leg and like you said, like this big around back then. And I haven't, if they were out there, we'd see pictures all over the internet of these things. If people on
yeah.
kayaks
You
catching
don't.
giant, it seemed like. Do you remember that we were catching yellowtail and the barracudas were
Yeah,
so big?
barracuda
Sometimes you
used to be
thought you
big.
had a yellowtail. You're like, oh my gosh, I think I got a
Yeah,
yellowtail, and you pull it in, and it'd be like a 4 foot barracuda with
yeah. You're right.
a
I
mouth
don't know
big
if
enough.
that's real or not, but because I remember being young and the
Yeah,
barracuda seemed a lot bigger. Like
a
we'd
lot.
catch them out of like Catalina, and it seemed like
They were
I don't know.
huge.
I don't
And they
know.
put maybe it's because I had little boy arms, but man, they put up a
It could
huge
be.
fight. You know what I mean? They were
Yeah,
crazy. I don't know.
yeah.
And you know what was weird too? Those giant ones, we couldn't bounce them, so we would gaff them. And by the end of the trip, the deck would just be littered with all these barracudas. And people would be eating those things up, man. I took a little bit home once, and it was it was a little mushy for me. You know what I mean? And it wasn't very good. But man, those barracudas got hammered back then. I don't know
Yeah.
what the limit was, but the boat was definitely catching the limit of those things. They were all over. Do you
Yeah, it's
guys in
funny.
chat remember giant barracudas? Or is that just my memory of?
Could be. The ones in the Atlantic actually are. They're called like giant barracuda. I don't think they're the same species. They're big, but yeah, even
Yeah,
those ones on the
you're right.
Pacific were. Yeah, they definitely don't seem like they were. I think like a couple years ago they ran through, like Long Beach, maybe 2022. I know there was a big rush on them, and everybody was like, I went up there to try to find them, but apparently there was the big cylinder boys were up there running. So I
Is
guess
that
they
what you
come and
call them?
go.
Cylinder boys? I heard that.
I don't know. I just made that up.
Hey,
But we could use that from
that
now on.
works. It's a
If you guys
good
catch a
description.
cylinder boy, let me know.
Cylinder boy the size of my leg.
Hey, dog,
Okay,
what's
so
going on, man?
what's up, Cave Dog? Good to see you, man. How'd your Cave Dog just got back last night, I think, from a fishing trip. How'd it go? How'd it go, Cal? He already sent me a PB shout out for this next coming show I do. So I know how you did, but tell everybody.
Yeah, and he was on
You
his
know,
boat. Did you hear about just on a side note, the jig strike sunk?
oh yeah, I did.
That's
I
crazy.
did.
And I've been on that boat a few times.
Can I tell the story about that,
Yeah,
or do you want?
yeah. No, go
So the
for it.
jig strikes out of H&M and Landing, and I would consider that a little smaller boat, right? It's not.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, I agree.
and they were out. I guess was it heading to the Coronado Islands or somewhere, and they struck something. It must have been pretty big underwater, enough to breach the hull of the boat. And I think there was it 17 people on board, somewhere around there. And captain was able to evacuate everybody off that boat, but it was taken on water, and he got out an emergency call, and another boat, I think from H&M Landing, somebody else who was in the local waters heard the
He was the
distress
legend.
call. The legend, yeah, the legend went over there and scooped all the people out, no injuries, everybody good. But that boat went down, and I heard it broke up too on its way down. So unfortunately, that
Wow.
thing's probably not salvageable.
What if they marked the coordinates? I mean, that's
Yeah,
future
structure.
wreckage.
Is that what you're thinking? See,
Unless it's
that's a
too deep.
fisherman thinking.
Yeah, unless it's like thousands of feet deep. But yeah, I've been on
Yeah.
both those boats. I've been on the Jig Strike and the Legend. That's so it's crazy when you look at it from that perspective. It's like that could be you, you know. You always got to
What?
be, you always got to be ready.
So in the SBS tournaments, right? It's boats only, and these are like it's like the closest you can get to professional saltwater bass fishing. I think. There's the $100,000 boats out there. Everybody's got all the top stuff. In the SBS tournament, when we start, it's a shotgun start. It's kind of fun. So you get out there on the usually like a jetty or the bay or the beginning of the ocean, and it's like, okay, ready, set, and they set off this horn, and everybody floors it, and you take off. Well, me and Salty Dangler are in Long Beach, and we're taking off. We're still in the Long Beach harbor, and there's boats. This is boats flying. We're all going 40 miles an hour. All the saltwater boats go about 40 miles an hour. And in the corner, it's wintertime, so it's dark. And in the corner of my eye, me and Salty are looking, I'm flying. You can only see so far ahead of you. I missed a floating telephone pole floating in the water by about this much. And I
Oh
saw
my
it go
gosh.
by in the corner of my eye. And thinking it's on one of the slower boats, I look back, I'm trying to like give the signal, the
Right.
point. But I can see how that can happen. Like a floating telephone pole, if I would have hit that, it would either rip my outboard off or puncture the hole, or who knows what. My cruddy fiberglass boat's not going to take a full speed telephone pole in there. So I could see how
Yeah.
that could happen. Almost happened to me. I missed it by about 2 or 3 feet. Scary
Yeah.
moment.
You really do got to pay attention, especially the trees. I mean, that's happened to me. I've been offshore and there was like, we rolled up on it. It was with Kevin, but it was just like this giant tree stump. It was like, I don't know what it was at, but it was like, it was huge, but it was in between the waves and it was dark. You could, we saw it soon enough, but I could totally understand where somebody could just hit that, not really paying attention, because they blend in the color, but
Yeah,
we circled it a few times and we're just like, man, this is going to ruin somebody's day for sure. It's crazy.
for sure. And that telephone
Somebody
pole is
was
only
saying,
set about 10 feet out of the water.
I heard somebody say it was like, could have been like a drug running boat, like a submarine, like a drug
No
submarine.
way. Hit that.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the like kind of conspiracies or theories or something like that. But
Assuming that thing has a steel hull, correct? I'm assuming it's steel hull. It would
Jig
have to
Strike,
be,
I'm not sure. I'm assuming it is. Yeah.
assuming it is. I mean, it would have to be because those boats aren't very fast, right? They're maybe trucking, 20 miles an hour max, when they're heading out there. So it'd have to be something with some substantial weight, you know what I mean? To puncture that hole. Well, that one thing I think
Cape Dog's got the insight. He said Captain Pat at the Jig Strike told us what happened. All the internet opinions and comments were wrong. Information is being withheld until the final investigation. Come on, Cal. Just let me believe it was a drug running submarine.
hey, hopefully he sunk it, right? Hopefully eye for an eye.
But apparently they gave him his license back, so it wasn't like
No
Captain
negligence
Air.
found. Yeah. It doesn't sound like it. I mean,
No.
like I said, that could sometimes you just don't see things. One time me and Roman were out coming back from a bluefin trip, and something just middle of ocean, middle of nowhere, nothing, something hit the outboard hard. And we looked around, like nothing, couldn't see anything. So it was directly underneath the surface of water. I think it might have been one of those mola fish that kind of just float around on the surface. I don't know, because we were seeing those around that day, but something hit hard. And we never figured out what it was, but it was enough to like chip a little paint and scare us a little bit. Didn't rip my motor off, thank goodness. Yeah, mola says driftwood. I think, unfortunately, that might have been what it was.
That could be. Those are no joke.
They're
And out
big.
here, there's giant ass sea turtles that like look like dinosaurs, and it's like it's wild,
Hit a
man.
sea turtle wide
You hit one of
open.
those, it's gonna ruin your day.
Why can't I hit a sea lion? That's
Yeah, that's
I want to
you're
hit
talking.
something.
Now you're talking.
I think I know a guy who. Can I tell a funny story about Kevin? I may have already told this once. So, me and Kevin were coming back from offshore fishing. Was it the trip you were with us? I can't remember. You were maybe following in your boat. And in San Diego, we have these gigantic whale watching boats where it's like 2 stories. They're full of tourists and 2 levels, right? So you got like 200 people in this giant whale watching boat. And the whale watching boat is stopped, and they're watching this pod of dolphins that's probably like 300 thick, huge pod of dolphins. And I let Kevin drive the boat. When you go out with Kevin, you just sit back and let that guy do what he does. He's good at it. So he's captaining my boat, and it's calm seas. He's wide open. We're going 35 miles an hour, and I see him going over. I'm like, hey, dude, you might want to take a left-hand turn. You're gonna go right through that pod of dolphins. And by the way, I've got a gigantic advertisement on the side of my boat that says Cool Baits, and there's a million cameras pointing this way. And if you hit one of those dolphins with my boat, I'm gonna be the biggest jerk in the world. Kevin just smiles, dude, and he goes right through 300 dolphins with 200 people watching. Thank goodness we didn't hit any, but it looked like intentional. I'm like, oh, thanks, Kevin. I'm sure that's gonna hit the internet quick.
That's good PR right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Tell
dolphins,
Kevin I miss him.
they go down. They know what's coming. They're
They go
smart.
down. I know, but when you got 200
mammals.
people watching and the kids,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Yeah, Spotty Best. That's good old Kevin. So say hi to Kevin for me. I miss that guy.
Will.
Probably Kevin Akata is probably the fishiest person I've ever met. Just so you guys, that guy's
That's
insane.
True. That's not
yeah.
That is no lie. He
Like
sees things that are like the normal human does not see out on the water. We were like a couple weeks ago, we were out fishing offshore, and there was a sea turtle swimming by, like this giant sea turtle, and he's like, "Oh, hey, turn around. There's fish on this sea turtle." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And so
that's your guy's caddy.
We turn around. He cast at the sea turtle and caught a big ass cobia. There was 2 cobias swimming with the sea turtle. He grabs the jig stick, fires it out there. I had some lure tied in and just like hooked it. We brought it on board, and it was like nobody would. I see these turtles that I just pass them all the time. I would have never thought to like stop and cast on sea turtles. You know, but sure enough, like he saw some fish out there. But yeah, we go out all the time, and he's always just like, "Oh, you see over there? You see?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know what the hell you're looking at."
That's why I'm sure when you go out, Kevin's behind the helm, right? You're just like, go for it, Kevin. Do your thing. I've had
usually
him
I drive out. I usually drive out. He drives back, but yeah, pretty much I just like he tells me to go over here or go over there. I'm like, okay, just tell me which way to go.
Yep. He's got the eye. Okay, so let's get back into some of the evolution here. So let's see. Let's talk about electronics. This is kind of a hot topic because they came out with some new rules, I guess, in the largemouth industry, talking about live scope and active target and all that. And I don't know if this is it's new news to me, but I think it just came out that they've limited the amount, not the technology they can use, but the like amount they can use. Like somebody can only have 55 inches of screen on their boat. I don't know what those guys were doing where they're exceeding that, but it sounds like they may have had 4 monitors up front, probably 2 on live scope, probably 2 on down scan. So they've limited in the largemouth world 55-inch total, which still seems like an insane amount. And they've limited 1 monitor to up front, up on the bow of the boat too. So there's kind of a little with the live scope active target, I think, because people are watching this on TV, the MLF and everything, and they're watching these guys. And I don't know if you follow that, and basically they're just like looking down at that screen nowadays. They're looking at that screen because you can see you can actually see your lure, and you can see how the fish are reacting, and you can adjust. It's not biting that. I'll throw on this. Let's see what they do. Let's see if they react. And these pro bass anglers, and I can't blame them for doing this. This is what you got to do, and that's how these guys are making their money, right? This is their living. Yeah, they're making this. If they don't win or they don't play, so their sponsors aren't going to keep supporting them, and they don't winning. So I don't blame them for not using everything that's available. But for the common viewer like me, you, and all these guys, when you're just watching a guy look at a 4 16-inch or 24-inch screens flipping down there and catching fish, you're like, wow, is that what I have to do now to be to catch fish? Do I have to go out and spend $10,000 on electronics? And so there's starting to be a little bit of push, like limitations, but I don't think they'll ever eliminate it. It's progress. I mean, it's gonna happen. I don't think we've even got to the level of where it could be once AI starts not taking over, but once they introduce AI into fishing, who knows where that could go? I don't even have the brain power to think about how AI could advantage us in catching fish. But
if it can network everybody's systems, I'm sure it can build an algorithm of, if it's getting feedback from, if everybody's Simrads are online and the information gets uploaded. I'm sure a lot of people, Navionics has this, all the data. It could probably create a pretty decent algorithm about where to fish and what time to fish, and stuff like that, and be probably pretty accurate.
Of course, if it took like Bloody Decks and it took all these,
Yeah. Yeah.
subscription stuff where they actually enter in live
Mhm.
fish counts or live what's going on in the water, and that AI was able to compile like the entire
Yeah.
everything
When it
good,
was posted, when they was caught. Yeah.
and it could be a good thing for like a guy that's running a giant boat and needs to go out and find, people are paying all this money. You got 6 hours to go get them on fish. That could be an advantage to it. But I think besides that, I'm talking about like the guys that are fishing for the bass, the guys that what they can bring out on their boat, the tools that they can use. I don't know where that's going to go, but if you just look back only like 10 years ago, the fish finder on my boat, like maybe 15 years ago, was literally like a calculator screen. It was like 8-bit Nintendo. You know what I mean? It had
Right.
like a cubes at the bottom, and you could kind of tell maybe there was a fish down there, but really all the thing did was tell you the depth, and it wasn't
Depth.
very
Yeah.
accurate. It didn't show grass. It just showed depth and temperature, and that's it. It didn't have, you couldn't look up the tides. So if you just go back 15 years from now, from then till now, and you see what we've done in what are we going to do in 10 years from now? Because it seems like technology is advancing a lot faster. So in 10 years from now, is it going to be like looking at like a TV screen where it's like a CG screen where you're actually like, oh, that's a spotty. Oh, that's a stingray. Oh, that's a halibut. Like you can actually physically like see a downward angle of the fish. I don't know. I don't know where it's
Yeah.
going.
Because I had Jeff from Battlefish. He's a local. He's got a YouTube channel out here. He's actually been on the show. He's a retired guy, so he fishes like almost every day. But he got a live scope on his boat, his bay boat, and like he gathered it's new, and he's been doing like a lot of videos around it. He said, yeah, he'll just drive around with the live scope in the St. John's River, and he'll just he'll see a school of redfish and just cast on them and catch fish. Like he said, he doesn't. It's eliminated like where he used to just go around and cast all the time, right? He's because now he just goes and finds them first, drives around, finds them on the live scope, and then he'll see the big school swimming through, casts on them, just get these big bull reds, right in the middle of the river. It's crazy. And it was like
It's
it's
true.
all that whole thing. Is it cheating? Is it not? Like that's the whole
The technology is there. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So like I said, he's a recreational fisherman, but the guys that are making a
Yeah.
living at it, how could you? But okay, I fished the one bass open 2 years ago in Lake Mead, and the pre-fish. I was talking to my captain. I was a co. And I say, "How'd your pre-fish go?" And he goes, I don't even bring a rod. He just goes out there, and he'll go out like you said with his live scope, find the smallmouth. He'll
Mark.
mark it days before, go out, mark, 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 mark. And that's all they do is go out and mark. And then you go out the next day. And normally, believe it or not, those fish are still where you mark them. Those largemouth bass and smallmouth don't move a whole lot like our spotties do. So they'll just go out, mark out, don't even take a rod. Because when you find them, you find them. You don't want to go out
Yeah,
there.
why
And
fish
it's
them out? Yeah.
changed the pre-fish. It's changed pre-fish totally in the largemouth world. Is just going out and marking. Why am I going to catch them? I know they're there. I can see
Yeah.
it. So if you don't have that technology, though, you're out exploring. And how long does it take to? I'm not very good at live scope. I've been on boats and I look at it, and like when you see a ultrasound of your baby, you're like, yeah, that looks like a baby, I guess. But the guys that have got,
You got to know how to read it.
yeah, the guys that spend hours looking at it, know exactly what they're looking at, and it's got better. The live scope's got better.
Definitely. Yeah. It's getting more
Spottybowl,
advanced
though,
for sure.
I only know of one person that has live scope on their kayak, and I haven't heard a lot of input from them on it. So I don't know. So live scope really hasn't entered it. I think one, because of the cost, it's basically
Yeah.
like a $3,000 plunge. And a lot of us are fishing on kayak. So it'd be like the same price as your day in kayak to put live scope on it. And two, I don't think we really need it. In my boat, I have we both have the exact same fish finder. We have the Simrad in Evo 3 NSS,
Right. Oh, that's right.
and they don't have live scope. They have down scan, which is mainly what I use in the bay, and they have the regular sonar. But the thing that's great about ours is you can actually go out nowadays and buy a chip, Navtronics, C Maps, whatever it is,
Yep.
and you buy the chip for your region. You put that in this thing, and it has for me, like SBS tournament, it has a map of the ocean floor that is so detailed and so
Yeah.
perfect that it shows all the structures, all the
Yep.
reefs, everything like that. And that for SPS tournament,
That's
when I
what
go
I
out of
have.
the bays, you just look at that thing and you can just see where the rocks are. You zoom in and then you make a waypoint. You set yourself on that. I mean, there's not doesn't show that there's fish there, but you're assuming that hey, there's a giant rock here and there's nothing around it within 200 yards. I bet you that there's a fish down on that rock. And that's probably the best technology that I have in my boat is buying that Navtronic. I have C maps, but that
Okay.
going
Yeah.
offshore and having the
You can
ability
have
to
the
not
Onyx.
just
Yeah.
back in the old days, I would just look at the shore because I knew if I got to La Jolla, there was this big white hotel on the shore, right? And I could kind of judge my distance. And I would look at the edge of the kelp and, I could figure out where my fishing spots were. And that's what I did. I would just look at the shore.
Right. Right.
Because I'm an inshore guy. I'm not really offshore. So if I do leave the bay, I go out to La Jolla or out to Point Loma and I just use like the pipe at Point Loma. You can see the stinking thing coming down the hill and you just go straight out from it and you go to the edge of the kelp and you work your way deeper and deeper until you find them. So it's
Yeah.
like all visual. But now with the C maps for that pipe, I don't have to look ashore. I just look at my C map. I can see that pipe's right here. I can take my boat right over to it, pull out my trolling motor here, and set that thing in, hit spot lock, and just work that pipe. And then I could point my troll. You have the same thing. I could
Yeah.
point my trolling motor due west, pointed it right with that pipe, hit like speed 3, and that thing will just slowly creep along. Hold that pipe. It'll just sit there and hold it, and you can just drop on that pipe. So
Yeah. It's
technology
crazy.
wise, yes, that's great. Yeah, I know it's so weird. I'm
And
still just like,
I think the live scan too is also it benefits from being a good fisherman and people knowing how to fish. Like that's because these people they already
yeah,
know where to look. They already know what they're looking for. So it's I imagine if somebody just a new fisherman got the live scan, they probably wouldn't know what the hell they're looking at. And it probably wouldn't benefit them as well. But I think it just amplifies better fishermen that much more, because you've already got an idea of where you're going and what you're looking for and stuff like that. So it's a
but you don't even need
interesting.
this. You don't even need it on your boat. If you just download Navtronics on your phone, there's guys that will they'll download it onto their iPad and take that out with them, and that works just as good because it's got a GPS in it, and you don't even need that. It'll show if you download CMAP or Navtronics, and there's like a monthly subscription
Yeah.
for it. You can use that map, so you don't have to buy a
If you're fishing the
high
bottom
end
fish,
one.
I could see where it works with like pelagics. And that's where I know like
You're
Jeff is using it and people offshore too. Like the boats now have that. Like they've got the these big sport boats. That's how they get on the bluefin. They've got like a 360
the
scan.
forward facing. They got the forward facing
They
sonar.
see the schools way
Yeah,
out there, and that's how they cut them off. And when you feel the boat turn, it's like if they were just looking straight down, you'd never find them. But they can get a live scan that um, points way out in front of you too. So I mean, because you
yeah.
can't really pelagics don't go near your structure all the time. They're just swimming through sometimes looking for bait. And if you're just looking for bait and breezers, like that can be a pain in the ass. But I could see where that'd be beneficial. Seeing a school, yellowtail swimming through and taking a hard turn and chasing them down. I mean, that would definitely be beneficial. I
You're
think
talking
easier
to
on
a
the
guy
bays
that
though.
I only fish for bass, Muto. That's
Yeah,
all I.
totally
It's
different
the only
world.
fish I want to fish for. So even when I'm in La Jolla, guys are going for yellowtail. I don't. I'm going for the big calicos. I go for
Yeah.
sand bass. I go for
And
bass.
like
I'm a
you said,
bass fisherman.
and
That's
then
what I
you
like.
don't need it. Just find the structure.
Yeah.
That's where they're at. That's where they live. Yeah.
I'm not looking for birds diving. I mean, if I see
Right.
birds diving and I see
There's calicos.
obviously a school of yellowtail and I have something that's slightly bigger than my bass rod, yeah, I'm gonna throw on that thing. Of course I am.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't? So
100%.
as far as bay fishing goes, I don't think. I mean, the bay fishing for me, I like my depth finder because I I like that. I saw a comment. I like that. My depth finder because I have down scan and even the most basic, $499 ones have a down scan now where you can actually see grass.
Yeah.
And if you're fishing through Sail Bay, you're fishing through Mission Bay, San Diego Bay, you're looking for that grass. And if you're cruising, it's just a flat desert. There's nothing, no structure, no rock, no nothing. You're probably not going to get anything. So my advice would get something with a down scan where you can see the tips of the grass, and you can see fish in there, but you don't know what it is. But get a down scan, and that's probably all you need for the bay. And a GPS is nice, or if not GPS, a chart is nice so you can mark waypoints. But I think nowadays they pretty much all have that built into them.
Yeah.
And
And
it's
I
nice to
feel
have
like
the tides on it. There's some advantages to
yeah.
having those electronics. But I don't
Yeah.
think we need live scope. I mean, for me, when I go out there, I don't have any electronics on the front of my boat. I fish from the front of the boat. I don't fish from the back. So I'm always up front. And I'm not, the only time I'm looking at that screen is when I'm going from spot to spot. And really, I don't even
Right.
need it because I know I'm going to Dana. I know I'm going to Paris Point. I know I'm going over
Sure.
SeaWorld. I know I'm going, to Kellogg or wherever I'm going. And all I'm going there for is in Spotty World is going for the pylons and structures and grass. And I know where all that's at. So
Yeah.
I don't think we need that quite yet in Spottybowl. But it's gonna happen. Somebody's gonna get it.
Somebody will figure it
And
out. Yeah.
somebody's gonna get it, and I'm interested to see if it progresses them. One thing I would like to have live scope though for is I think it would be a good learning tool for baits. Say I'm throwing the 15 gram, right? And I can watch that on live scope and see how they react. And maybe they don't like that. And I try the 10 gram, and guess what? Boom, boom, boom. There, you see how they react.
Yeah.
And I try the 20 gram, or you go to the bait barge and you look down there and you're seeing, I'm running a cool baits 1 ounce through there and they don't go for it. But then, you could see how they're if they're down there and if they're reacting to that and adjust what bait you're throwing. So it'd be like a learning tool.
Sure. Using the
just a
information.
visual tool to see how they're, because when you're running your bait through the bait barge, there could be a million fish down there, but you're just throwing the wrong dang thing. They don't want anything with a flash. They don't like that. But you don't know if they're down there. But if you had live scope, you could see how they're reacting.
At least see if they were there. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be a learning tool. So that would be the one reason I would like that for a learning tool.
100%.
For sure. I'm gonna open up my second drink here. Eh? I don't know how you're doing it, but I'm not in air conditioning. So cheers, Muto.
Cheers. I do. I got the AC going.
You guys want to go longer? We're at our hour. We can go a little. You want to go a little longer here? I feel like
you guys want longer, or should we wrap it up? Let's do a vote.
I've got a lot more to talk about. If you guys
probably haven't even scratched your notes.
We can do a part 2 one night, I guess. If you guys are into this.
What else you got as far as like the evolution goes of the technology?
I was going to talk about rod fishing, fishing rods, fishing reels, that kind of tech. Maybe we'll end it on that. What do you think? Longer. All right. Well, one person said longer, so cool. That's good enough for me. As long as one person's going to stick around.
Sammy said more. But yeah, I mean, even the technology, like when Spot Lock and all that came out, that's a whole nother game changer too. Spot Lock on trolling motors and sides. I remember when down scan came out and side scan, it was like all that was kind of the same argument. Is it too easy?
I have side scan. I'm not a side scan guy. That's for me. That's for looking for bait. You know what I mean? If it's looking for bait. Salty Dangler goes out with me on my boat. He uses the side scan. He uses it a lot. Yeah. But I'm not a side scan guy. I'm a down scan guy, and probably it's because I'm only looking at it when I'm going spot to spot.
I don't even use down scan. I just use the straight up sonar. Look at the blips. Look at the structure.
I got to teach you how to use your down scan, because if you can make some adjustments on it, it's like just think of your sonar as like a flashlight beam, right? And that down scan, it's like a pencil beam. So it's like very, very accurate on how it's reading the grass, mainly grass, and how it's reading a rock or a drop off. The good thing about the sonar is you get, you can see hard bottom. So, there's like advantages to that too, but you can run those simultaneously. You can split your screen and run them. And that's what a lot of people do. But down scans the way I go. Oh, Driftwood, what's up? You out of here? Thanks for joining us.
The Jamba Juice.
That sounds pretty good right now. Get me a Berry Blast protein with whey and energy boost or whatever it is. I'll take one of those.
The wheatgrass shot.
Nah, I've done that once where they trim it just as like hey, let me try that thing, and they put it in that little tiny cup.
Yeah, terrible.
And you're like, wow, that tastes like mowed grass. That's exactly just what you think it tastes like. It's gonna taste like. Later. Okay, so let's talk about our last thing. I want to talk about fishing rods. So we're talking about evolution. So when I first started out, let me show you. I still have my first shore pounding rod. Not my first, but when I first went out and spent some money. And this was the hot ticket. This was the Bait Runner 3500 HD. And it had this. You remember this little feature back here? This is like on all the half day boats and everything. This Bait Runner feature where you click this thing over. Yeah. And it puts this into like a clicker mode, like a casting reel, or you could feed out line on it.
They still kind of make those, but they're different, a little different.
They're not old school, but this is like the first reel where I went out and this thing was like $129. And I'm like, oh, dang, I'm going to go out and get something nice. But this is where I started right here. Bait Runner 3500. And of course, it's matched up with the inshore Ugly Stick, which, I bought it because it's indestructible, right? And Ugly Stick for me back then, it was a Walmart $39 rod. Looked pretty good. So here's where how many of you guys started out with the Bait Runner 3500? Because if you back in the day, this reel, if you went onto the Dolphin half day twilight boat and you rented gear, this is what they handed you.
That's what they had. Interesting.
This is the exact, except it was this model right here, which if you were a big dog, you own the 6500. Same reel.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. The big coffee grinder.
Yeah. This thing weighs like 2 pounds too. Yeah, I mean, you were a man back then, man. This thing's like that's all steel gears, and there's it's like if you were casting this all day, dude, you're like Popeye arms, dude. This was my bay setup, and this was my going out on the charter boat setup. Yeah, Ugly Sticks are classic. So
Ugly Stick is still good. Like the Tiger Stick. I mean, that's like 80 bucks, 70, 80 bucks. Yeah. Even now you can get one.
I'm sure with inflation, they're like $80 now. Yeah.
It's a good rod.
Look at it. It's Jesus sakes, probably, I don't know, maybe like 25 years old, not a broken eye on it. Tip's still perfect. I could fish this thing right now,
You still use it?
Trust me. I don't.
Or is it retired?
Let me tell you why. I take this thing out. Man. I should. I take this thing out and it's like fishing a wet noodle. There's no sensitivity to it. Once you've gone to these graphite fancy rods, lightweight rods, and you have all that sensitivity and that the cast better. And the main thing you're gonna notice when you go from an Ugly Stick to, let me show you what I'm fishing now.
The reel's probably got like 10 inches of retrieve on it. Takes you like 40 minutes to bring it in after casting.
Now I fish. This looks like a pencil compared to that, right? But this rod is so much stronger, and it's my Akuma rod. Thanks, Dave. It's Akuma RTS. I've been fishing this the entire Spottybowl. This is what I fish your jig with. But it's the graphite rods. The thing about when you go to that too and go to this, so the graphite rods are like a pencil, right? And when you get to the tip of it, you're like scared of it because it's so dang skinny. You're like, wow, how is it not going to break? Don't touch it. Don't breathe on it. It's going to break. But the reason one of the reasons they do it is to make it stiff and to make it sensitive. But another reason is when you eliminate that mass, they found out, like, I don't know, maybe in the 70s, that when you go to set a hook, right, it's not so much about that power. It's more about the speed. And when you eliminate mass off of a fishing rod, eliminate mass increases your speed. And that is how a lot of the big time bass anglers were. If you watch some old videos, I'm gonna show you something real quick too. If you watch old Rolling Martin, old Bill Dance, this is what they were fishing with, dude. And those guys were nuts.
Like a pistol grip, dude.
Pistol grip rod, 5 foot long. And if you watch how those guys set their hook, they're like, they like would point the rod all the way at the fish, right? And to set that hook, you would have to pull it towards you and then swing it all the way over your head, all the way back, because they didn't have braid. They had mono, and they had these short little rods. So go back and watch it old school, and those old guys would point the rod at the fish, and as the fish would bite, they'd turn, pull their arms back, and then swing this thing over their head. And that's how hard it was to actually set a hook. And they had crappy hooks too. They didn't have chemically sharpened hooks. They had hooks that they sharpened as they went. So the evolution of going from a 5 foot rod that was fiberglass with a pistol grip, and having to, with mono, all that stretch, when they went to graphite, that was a huge. Now we've got this huge handle. We get all this leverage. We've got a thin rod. We can get all that speed. We've got a super sensitive tip that's super strong, and we can swing that thing. And back then, you would get about 2-3 pounds of maybe hook set out of those setups once you got the short rod, the mono, and everything. And a rod like this now is like 8 to 12 pounds of hook set that you can get from, and it's instant. Like when we are fishing braid, and we've got one of these fancy rods, and we just fill a twitch. I mean, within like nobody's, unless you're fishing the A-rig, you don't see many guys like set that hook like they used to in the old days. You know what I mean? The rod's not going up and over your head.
Yeah.
maybe Kevin, but
Unless you're
those
trying to make
guys
a
are just not
YouTube,
doing.
unless you're trying to
But
make like Instagram reel.
these rods are so good now that within like just a half of
Just lift
swing,
it. Yeah.
the hooks are so good, the rods are so good, the line is so good. Every bit of that percentage made these things so much better, and that's probably one of the best evolutionary things that has happened to the fishing industry is these graphite rods, braided line or fluorocarbon, and being able for the average guy to set that hook easily. Go back, watch the old videos, man. You're gonna
You don't
see
even
some
need to
nuts
set the hook, man. You just steady retrieve.
on
It's
your
gonna
jig
set
though.
itself. Yeah.
On your bait, I lift the tip. That's it. I lift the tip and wind down. The
Yeah.
submission
It's
fishing
done.
kill
Yeah.
is done. But if I'm fishing, if you're on my boat and I'm fishing my A rig and you're standing next to me, you better watch out when I get bit because for that specific bait or the cool bait, like a cast and retrieve bait, because those single hook and they'll bite it and let go. So when you feel that, it's like for me, it's like watching me have a seizure. I hit it, just it's like instantaneous, and that's you have to be that way with those cast and retrieve baits. They're not like the hookup baits or the submission fishings where they just like hit the bottom and you just
Doesn't have to
lift
hit
your
the
tip
assist
up.
hooks. Yeah.
Yeah. So it depends on the bait for me, but I'm still swinging that A rig hard. There's nothing like that too because you've got the 65-pound braid. You've got the bomber cast, you've got the thing buttoned down all the way. And when you set that thing on a big fish and that line pulls, and man, that's my heaven right there, man. I love that feeling right there.
That's awesome.
Gotta go see you, Jeff. All right. Well, people are tuning
cool
out,
too.
Muto. I think we've gone past our hour here. I know you're probably getting late, but hey, I'd love to do it again. If you guys see, I have all my outline notes here. I went through about a quarter of what I want to talk about. So
We can't see the notes, but it always happens. We always got a list of stuff, and then we end up talking, and then we get through like a quarter of it. But yeah, I mean, you're more than welcome to come on anytime. You know, we'll make
if
it a
there's anything
series.
I love to talk about, it's talk about fishing. I love to talk about fishing history, the evolution, all this the gear. You know, I love the subject, and I appreciate you having me on. And
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks for coming on,
one
man.
thing I want to add, one thing I want to add to this is one thing that is great about fishing is not just the actual fishing of it. It's getting into the community like this. Like all these guys in chat. I know Sammy. I know Driftwood. I know I know all these guys. One Cool Tuna, Alex Norton. I know everybody in here and the community. I really appreciate all you guys follow me around and listen to me ramble. And to me, these like belts and all these championships I've won are great, but they don't compare anything to the community that I have, come to know. And it really makes it fun for me when I go down to the bay and I get to see you guys and talk fishing and come on shows like this and talk fishing. So thanks for letting me come on here, Muto, and talk to my community and ramble on about fishing and telling some stories. I hope to do it again soon.
Next week. They want a part 2.
All right, let's do a part 2. I'm down.
I'm down. I'm down for it too.
All right.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Brian.
But hey, I gotta end it this way, man. Just like watch me on Fish Hour 2 sometimes. This weekend, of course, guys, I'm gonna be out there snagging grass and catching bass. I will catch you guys later. I'm out of here.
Later. Round of applause, everybody, for Brian Likes to Fish. We'll let y'all go. We're running over time, but just a couple things, guys. We are having a sale on the submission jigs. If you spend $30, you get a free 15-gram jig. It's like a mystery 15 grams. So we're only running this through Saturday. A lot of people have been ordering those, but just letting you guys know, it's only till the this weekend. It's been our Labor Day sale. So if you guys want to get a free 15 gram, if you're going to buy jigs anyways, I mean, it's a perfect time to get that promotion. So check it out. And then, of course, we got the submission at sea shaping up. We got the hats made. We got raffles. Sponsors are starting to line up. So check that out too if you want to fish with us on the Legend October 24th to the 26th. Go to smishfishing.com. Also, check your local tackle stores. But yeah, guys, really appreciate you. Thanks for Brian for coming on. And yeah, until next time. Oos.